Today is Thursday, I believe it's July 26th, and today the right side axle for my Roadtrek 210 came in from a company called Dutchman Axles, or it goes under Dutchman Motorsports. And I had taken the time this afternoon to go with the shaft and a bearing that I got from Advance Auto, which is the same as what O'Reilly Auto Parts sells, or national parts stores here locally. Actually, one sells SKF bearings. O'Reilly's and Advance Auto sell Federal Mogul bearings under the national brand or their own, which is basically the same thing. But I called to Dana Incorporated that made the axle for this today and spoke to a guy by the name of Joe in tech support that identified to me that this differential actually came with 75 W90 synthetic fluid. I had gotten a gallon of non-synthetic, and so I took that back this afternoon. I did stop at a Chevy garage. I wanted to see what their OEM bearing was. Didn't seem to be much difference. And of course the price for the OEM actually was $74. The off-brand or National Federal Mogul SKF is roughly $33. So I'm going to install this as of starting this afternoon. It is currently 5 o'clock. As a side note, when I was at the store and I asked to have a different bearing size on here, the guy took it out of the package and he was going to hand it to me, and all the 13 rollers fell out on the floor. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a toilet paper roll that happens to be the OD happens to be the ID of the rollers on the inside. I'm going to cut that or press it into the size and flare this end out so that when I knock the bearing in, that the rollers don't come out. I was lucky for the driver's side and they didn't dislodge. So I'm going to just give this a shot and see if it doesn't work for me. I've sort of serrated the edge of the tube, cardboard tube, inserted it into the bearings, and I am tapping this into place now. And at some point I will be taking this, in this case it happens to be a 2-inch diameter Craftsman socket, and I'm going to be putting on the edge of this, or using this bearing first, which is almost the same. The OD is the same ID as the bearing itself, so it'll slide in where the seal goes, and I will beat on that to anchor it securely. Well, at this point that the bearing has been pushed into its limit. When you hear metal clanking on metal, that's usually a good sound. Again, the bearing that I used was from Advance Auto, and it is an R as in Robert -1561-T as in Tom, V as in Victor, R-1561-TV. And so now I'm about to put the seal in. After I take this tube out, you can see what I did with this tube. I grease the bearing first, and with axle grease. This tube, inserted in there and beat it in without any problems. Rollers are intact, so everything's a go. Minutes later, I put the seal in similar to the bearing, using a washer to press against this the outside edge of the seal, and on top of that I use this socket. So together with a heavy hammer I tapped the seal into place, and like a tire you should rotate when you hit. Similar to the bearing, you should tap on the edges in order to insert it. In this case, the seal also came from Advance. It's part number 710067. Now about to put the shaft in. There are just one minor difference between this shaft and the OEM shaft that I don't think it's going to be a problem, and I'll identify that in a couple minutes. But first of all, this is a 33 spline shaft, and this diameter is 1.705, which was stock, and that's what was on the other two shafts, other than the worn down areas. But of course, remember to pull off this cap that was used to protect the splines during shipping before you insert the shaft in, like slid into place but not secured. If you see, there's a gap of about almost 2 inches, and that's because I have to get up underneath where the differential is and pull a pin out so that I can slide the shaft in further and get the C-clip into place. I'll be doing that in a minute. To reduce the distance between the inside edge of the flange and the brake shoe, the outside edge of the brake shoe, within about 1/4 of an inch. You can see this with the glare of the sun. That means that the inside edge of the shaft is in far enough for me to get the C-clip on. And I'll be backing this out again after the C-clip is held in place and put that cross pin back in place and secure it. The process of inserting the shaft went in fine, splines aligned and everything else, but what I found was where the C-clip is supposed to mount in here, this C-clip, you see this is the original one that I took out. This, I can't remember which, if it faced outward or inward, but the other side had more of a rough edge that stuck up about 3/1000ths of an inch. And you can see right here, I actually ground this off with a 4-inch sanding pad that I had on in my vise, so that it would actually slide into that catch lip or whatever, where the C-clip is supposed to sit. So on to pushing this back in. It's Friday, July 27th. I took a day off this week. Had a high school classmate come in from out of town, but the shaft, the right side shaft for the motorhome, came on Thursday by UPS, and so I got it in. I had to wait for a bolt to come in from Chevrolet, because no parts house locally had it. That means Napa, National, O'Reilly, AutoZone, Advance. Just a little bolt for inside the differential, but instead of using the original one, I decided to put a new one in. So as of 3:30 on Friday afternoon, I've taken the motorhome out for a ride. It seems to be running fine. I stopped, put more differential fluid in, and we'll be taking it for a spin a little bit later. Brakes are good. Axles seem to be good. All is good.